Section P, foreign or non-resident buyer and or seller. P1 is Hawaii Real Property Tax, which is HARPTA. This is for a seller or an investor who does not reside in the state of Hawaii. He's a U.S. citizen, he or she, but lives outside of the state of Hawaii, and they're selling this property. And then P2 is referring to foreign investor, which is FIRPTA. And a FIRPTA withholding is for an investor or a seller who does not live in Hawaii, but is also not a U.S. citizen. So they could reside in the United States, but they're not a U.S. citizen. And so there's different withholding and tax structures that are applicable to either of these scenarios. Why it's important is there's an affidavit that the seller would need to sign that's facilitated and handled through escrow to determine whether there's a withholding. But the reason why it's important to understand that is because the liability could transfer, at least how the law is written, the liability could transfer to the buyer. The other reason why this is noted on here too is for the buyer to understand the usage of how they intend on using the property themselves. So if you're having someone who plans on occupying the property, and then they say, I'm military, I'm going to occupy this property for 3 years, and I'm going to turn it into an investment property, and then move back to Texas or wherever it is they're from. It is important to let them know that HARPTA may apply to them at the time that they convert this property to an investment property, and if they sold it. These two things don't necessarily apply if you're doing a 1031 exchange, which is a different conversation entirely. But these are disclosure issues that this contract is trying to disclose to the buyer. P3 is additional disclosure required by foreign buyers and sellers. Buyer and seller understands that under the statutes and ordinance such as Ag Foreign Investment Disclosure Act of 1978, Internal Investment and Trade in Service Survey Act, and the ordinances of various counties of the state of Hawaii, among others, disclosures are required by foreign buyers and or sellers under certain conditions